Our meeting is now being streamed to Facebook Live. So good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind. It's almost, oh, it is time. Richard, if I put the lyrics up, can you still see your screen? I think we talked about how to minimize Zoom so I could post the lyrics. I'll try it and you tell me if it works for you.
Okay, it should.
All right. Can you see?
No, yeah, it's
Can
gone.
you still see your music?
No, I can't. Well, I can't get it started because it's all of a sudden it's taking over my full screen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
We're going to have to revisit how you can minimize your Zoom screen. But for the meantime, it's pretty much a song we all know.
Okay, everybody knows it.
It's an echo.
What did you say, Abigail?
You are echoing, Michelle, and I'm going too when I talk.
Yes, it's from Richard, but I'm muted all as well.
Okay, everybody set? Okay, let's start off with God is my source. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. Love is my source, love is my power, love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. Joy is my source, joy is my power, joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. Okay, here we go. Peace is my source, peace is my power, peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. All right, thank you.
Oh, we haven't done that one in a while, and it is so true. God is our source. So welcome again to anybody that has just popped on. And this morning, our practitioner of the day is Robert Brown, and I'm going to invite him to do our invocation and share his lovely quote.
And I'll take my sunglasses off, even though the glare from the backyard is unbelievable. So I invite everybody to close their eyes, relax, settle back into your seat. Take a deep centering breath and join me in consciousness. Join me in giving thanks for all opportunity again in consciousness, in community, and to join our hearts and minds together in prayer and celebration. I release my words into the law with great thanks, knowing that my words are acted upon as said, and together we signify our agreement by saying, and so it is. And today I've got a quote that's a little outside what kind of quotes we usually have, or at least I usually have. I usually try to find something that Ernest has said, but this time I found something that seemed to be apropos to the topic of the day, which is question everything. And this is by Jean-Yves Leloup from the book Compassion and Meditation, the Spiritual Dynamic Between Buddhism and Christianity. Sometimes the best answer to a question is another question. Is it not by asking questions that we stimulate each other to reach more deeply into our own source and thereby approach the source, both together and in our different ways? And that's exactly what we're all doing this morning, approaching our own sources and approaching the source of all of us, with which we are one. So join me in silence for a minute or so, and let's contemplate our oneness with our source. And I welcome you back into the room you're in and into this virtual Zoom room that we are sharing this morning. And let's join together in saying January's affirmation. Today, I encounter the wonder of the divine everywhere. I am inseparable from it. It is my true essence. As I become conscious of it and live in awareness of it, my daily experiences become opportunities for growth and transformation. There is only one life, and that life is my life now, and so it is. And I believe we got some more music from...
We do, but before that, I wanted to say happy birthday to you, Robert.
Well, thank you very much.
And I'm so glad you were born. You are a light and a blessing to our community and to the world. And you know, and I'm so glad you're the board president and that you are so involved with us and that you're part of our spiritual family. So happy birthday.
Thank you very, very much. Very kind words.
All right, Richard.
All right. Yeah, this song I'm going to do, interestingly enough, we watched this movie, Gandhi. We had recorded that. It's a really long movie with Ben Kingsley and others. You know, a lot of people sort of have little cameo appearances in the movie. But it's about the courage. This particular song is about the courage of our convictions and standing up for what we know is right. Now, of course, Gandhi did that. Martin Luther King did that. But it's a song by Bob Dylan, very succinct, very poetic, very powerful, very profound. It's called "Blowing in the Wind." And thank you so much, Michelle, for requesting that I do this, because I rediscovered, you know, how powerful the song really is. So how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? And how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? And how many times must those cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? And how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must we look up before we can see the sky? And how many ears must one person have before we can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till we know that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing, it's blowing in the wind. In the wind. In the wind. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Richard. Oh, so I invited Richard to play that song for us because it really does go along with our topic for the day and the theme of the month, which is to wonder, to be curious, to ask questions of spiritual inquiry, and to intuit and listen for the answers. I really like that idea of questioning as a spiritual practice. So here we are. Good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind online Sunday service for this, let's see, I guess it's the fourth Sunday in January. So we have a special offering for you guys this morning. You know, as we've done in the past, a few of our practitioners will present their thoughts on our monthly theme, which is Living Everyday Wonder, and on the weekly topic, which I just said is Question Everything. And last week, I kind of opened the door for us to think about, to ponder the idea of questioning everything, you know, using questioning as spiritual inquiry as a spiritual practice, just to kind of clarify and focus our thoughts and our feelings and our actions in the world. And I've said that wonder is not only that one expansive moment when we're in awe and inspiration, but it's also those times when we're called to be curious and open, to ask empowering questions, to wonder together, to draw us into kind of a deeper sense of who we are, why we're here. So this week, we're going to hear from our practitioners, Ralane, Clarke, Reverend Leslie Massopust, always a practitioner, even if you're a minister, Robert Brown, and we're also going to hear from a very long-time metaphysician and member of, or practitioner of science of mind, and she's a member of our board. And I invited Evon Carpenter to speak to us a little bit about her take on wonder and questioning. So first, before we get to that, I'd like to share with you a couple of takeaways from the annual convention that just took place this last week in Indian Wells, California, over near Palm Springs. I didn't go there physically, I attended virtually, but it was still a lot of fun to see everyone. And I was really pleasantly reminded that this year is the 10th anniversary of the integration of International Centers for Spiritual Living and United Centers for Spiritual Living. If you're new to our movement, you may not know that only 10 years ago, we were actually two separate organizations. We taught and lived the exact same philosophy, but we were separate. And then that's a whole nother long story that I'm not going to get into right now. Let's just say that it had something to do with a power struggle, which is very human. But anyway, at our annual convention in 2012, which was in New Orleans, I believe, both of the organizations voted to bring us together as one organization. And I have to say that we have faced and really moved through many, many challenges in bringing the two organizations together. But, we have. And probably the most complex of these challenges has been how we educate our membership, how we educate practitioners, how we educate ministers. That's been a biggie. And we're working through some of those challenges even today. It's a big task, but we are working through them. We're as metaphysicians, we know that there is always a solution in the infinite mind of God, and we are coming into the fruition of that solution today, even though it started 10 years ago. So probably the highlight of the conference for me was on opening night when our spiritual community leader, who right now is Reverend Dr. Edward Villon, when he spoke. Now, he's been the senior minister of Santa Rosa Center for Spiritual Living for 26 years. I can't believe it's been that long. And some of you may know that that's where I really began my journey with Science of Mind in Santa Rosa. I took my very first Science of Mind class, Foundations, from Dr. Edward in 1994. He had just come to Santa Rosa, and I had really just kind of begun taking Science of Mind classes. I had been attending service for several years, but I hadn't started to take any classes and really dive in deep. And then I went on to become a practitioner in Santa Rosa 5 years later. So Dr. Edward was my first Science of Mind teacher, and I'm still just super inspired by him today. And in that opening speech on Tuesday evening, Dr. Edward said some really powerful things that I just want to share, like just a couple really briefly, because I just feel that it's applicable to us as a spiritual community as well. And he said that the seeds of our current reality were planted back then at that convention in 2012. And he said, that's the way of things. We're experiencing today the results of what was set in motion back then. And then he went on to ask the question, to be curious about whether or not the delegates and the attendees of that conference in 2012 knew how much their choices, their decision would benefit us as an organization, how much it would benefit us to become one united family, especially in these interesting times that we find ourselves in now. You know, he asked, did they know the impact that they would have on our organizations? You know, did they, on our organization, not plural, did they realize that they were shaping our future? And, you know, and I just believe that these are really valuable questions for us to ask ourselves today. And I can't help but think about our own spiritual community and what seeds we're planting for the good of our spiritual center, and what good it will offer in 5 or 10 years to those that come after us. You know, do we realize that today we are planting the seeds that will support and shape our membership and really the world, because we're such great influence in the world as we move forward. It'll shape our tomorrow. You know, and even closer to home, I really wonder, do we realize the impact that we have individually from the seeds that we plant in our own lives today? You know, how will what we plant today affect our tomorrow and the tomorrows of all the people that we love and all of the lives that we touch? Do we fully understand how empowered we are to create or to not create what will impact the lives of our own lives and the lives of the world? I mean, the people in the world. We impact, because we're in unison with all, our lives impact everyone's. So I kind of just wanted to invite you to think about the thoughts and the feelings and the actions you hold during your day, and to recognize that these are the seeds of your future, of everyone's future. Another thing that Dr. Edwards said, and I kind of shared this at one of the meetings we had this week, but he also joked about how we've had to adapt to using technology, you know, over these past 2 years during COVID. And he joked about all the tools that were available for us to use on Zoom. You know, there's the mute button, and you can put up the fuzzy background so you don't have to clean up your space before you have a meeting, and all the different filters you can use to create any particular image you want to share with whoever else is on the call or with the viewers. And then he said something that I thought was really brilliant. He said that he was concerned about touching things up for appearance sake and glamorizing what is real. Touching things up just for appearance sake. I have to ask myself, do I do that in my own life and glamorize what is really real? Am I afraid to face what is right in front of me? And he went on to say that we as a spiritual movement must be willing to see what is right in front of us at any given moment and question whether we are seeing it clearly and honestly. You know, he talked about our tendency to not want to look at uncomfortable situations, even when they are right up in our face. And he spoke to our tendency to want to create a spiritual bypass that we don't have to face what is uncomfortable. And he invited us to experience and to honor everything while, that's compassion, while we plant new seeds for our future, to recognize what is as we create a new pathway for the future, plant new seeds. And I would like for us as a spiritual community to be curious about this together as we move forward this year, and as we grow, as we expand, as we plant new seeds for our future, individually and collectively. You see, this kind of wonder, the wonder of being curious together, is just as important, I believe, as the wonder, the awe, and the inspiration we feel when we watch nature put on some spectacular show of beauty right before our eyes. So I invite you this year to continue to wonder with your spiritual family, with our spiritual family, with our larger organization, to wonder, to participate, and to create a powerful new way of being human together in support. So those were the really the big takeaways that I had from, there was a lot that went on in the convention, there always is. And it was beautiful to hear so many different people speak and to watch the honorary awards given and all of that. But those were some big takeaways for me, and I just wanted to share them with you. And now I'd like to share Ralane Clarke's presentation with you. Now, she's having a little computer challenge right now, so I offered to read her presentation for her. And she just so eloquently articulates her experience of wonder and awe and inspiration in this. And I have it on my screen. I'm just going to put it up here so I can. I did actually print it off, but I left it on the printer, but I have it on my screen, so I'm just going to read it. All right, so Ralane's presentation, she writes, as I walk down our pathway leading into our forest with our dog Jack, I know that I do not own this land. We are grateful stewards of our land. The pathway beckons me, and the trees seem to embrace me. I feel such wonder, excitement, and amazement every day on every walk in all our 10 years living here. My prayer, meditation, and oneness begins as soon as I walk outside, often greeting me as our wild turkeys and deer families, squirrels, rabbit, badger, raccoons, foxes, birds, and even a young skunk. More abundant wildlife than I can see or imagine. In my prayers, mostly I just listen. The Hebrew word for listen is shema. I am the luckiest person in the world, feeling the presence of God and the union with my dog, trees, animals, nature, and spirit's energies, all forming a prayer in, of, and through my beingness. Our dog Jack is as excited as I am each walk. He smells a lot. His olfactory senses are stronger than mine. He can tell me all the animal visitors that have been there the night before. Yet Jack listens a lot too. So I listen even more with Jack. Deep within me, within the forest, within the trees and the animals, the dirt that I walk on, the birds, the sunlight, the clouds, the treetops, the sound of the geese flying over, the two owls hooting, the space between their hoots. Such wonder to feel so alive and connected with the unity, peace, wonder, excitement of my communion with God, Spirit. My soul is happy. Our trees are our guardians of our home and land, and us people too. I am so fortunate to call this place home. I am listening, and so is Jack. Shema, she writes. I love that. You know what I really love about that in one of the last parts, and she shared this, I think it was at a class one time, that when she listens to the hoots of the owls, that there's this space in between the owls talking to each other. And it's as if they're calling, and then they're patiently listening, and then they respond. And it's such a lesson for us as human beings. How many of you have been in a conversation, and rather than actually, I have to admit, I've done this several times, rather than actually listening to the other person, you're thinking about what you're going to say next. And I think it's a wonderful example and a lesson in nature to give that space so that we can actively listen and listen with heart. So the next person that is going to speak to us today is Evon, and I'm going to mute and invite you to welcome Evon.
Thank you, Michelle. My story is very different. I'm going to tell you a story about actually, I'm going to read you a story about an adventure that I had that I always think of when I think of just incredible, well, incredible life. So I'll read it to you, and it's fun. I like to read it because it brings me back to where I was. The story begins with 5 people enjoying a nice dinner, sitting on a 42-foot sailboat before leaving for an overnight trip from San Diego to Catalina Island. When we finished eating at about 7 p.m., we began our adventure. We were not sailing, but rather motoring, and planned to use the boat's autopilot after we got out of the harbor. It was a beautiful night, and we were enjoying it. It was going to take the whole night to get to Catalina, and around 10 o'clock, the most senior sailor, who had a captain's license, assigned the time each of us would stand watch and went below to bed. I was fairly experienced. I was fairly experienced as a sailor, but I had never sailed at night. And by the time my watch came up, which was the latest, it was right when we would be coming into Catalina. It was at the end of the sail. By the time my watch came up, everyone had gone to bed or was on their way to go to bed. The final words I heard before I was alone in the cockpit were, "Do you see that very dim, small light you see way out in front of us? It's a Navy ship. Don't hit it." So I had never sailed in charge of the autopilot, had never used boat radar, and had never sailed wearing a harness that lashes me to the boat. You have to have that so if you go over, at least you're not swimming out in the ocean, you're just getting dragged. The radar on the boat was below deck, so to see it, I had to go down below. Needless to say, I was scared. It was a huge responsibility. I was able needless. I was scared, yeah. I was able to get myself to calm down somewhat as time passed, but my mind was totally on what I would do if this happened. What would I do if that happened? On and on I went. I kept going below deck about every 15 minutes, checking to see if anything was showing up on the radar. Eventually, something very large on the port side of the boat showed up on the radar. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't recognize it and ran back up to see if I could figure it out. It took me another time going below deck to figure out that it was Catalina Island. The sun was just beginning to rise, and I was incredibly relieved to actually almost be able to see the island. I continued along completely overwhelmed that we were safe. The rising of the sun on the island was gorgeous. Talk about a wonder. It was so beautiful. I made one final trip down below deck to turn on the stereo system, blasting Cat Stevens' "Morning Has Broken." Returned above board and stood watching with tears pouring down my face. There are many interesting things to see in the ocean at night, and I had missed it all by worrying and being fretful about what might happen. I didn't stay in the present moment, instead flew into fear and worry. When I finally began looking for the wonder, it was there. And indeed, it was wondrous. That's it.
Wow. Well, that is a very wonderful illustrative story about going into fear or staying in wonder and staying in curiosity and staying in the moment. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'm glad it was Catalina Island and not that Navy vessel.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Evon. Appreciate it.
welcome.
And our next speaker is Reverend Leslie Massopust. Leslie, we can't hear you, honey. Don't know why. Nope, still can't hear you. You know, we've had this issue before with you. I think you logged off and then back on. I'll tell you what we could do. Well, let's see if she comes back out. I was going to say we could just go to Robert and then come back to Leslie, but let's give her a minute and see if she can get back on. Oh, we're seeing Renetta's ceiling. Beautiful.
Or she can come
bird.
use my computer.
That would work. Oh, here she's coming back on. Let's give her a second. Okay, you're muted. Unmute and let's see if we can hear you. Nope, still can't hear you.
Why don't you come here, Leslie, and use my computer?
Okay, we'll let them change. So Jim will be Leslie, and can you put your video on, Jim?
Let me turn my phone back on.
There we go. Okay.
I'll take my coffee cup and go.
All right, there you are.
Okay. Let's see here.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Have you ever wondered what God was thinking about when the platypus was created? I mean, I asked myself, was God having a play day? Can you imagine this entity sitting in front of a glob of Play-Doh, rolling it in his hands, rolling it out, flattening, cutting it up and putting it together? I mean, the platypus is a hodgepodge of animals. And when the scientists first discovered the platypus, they thought it was a hoax. It is a semi-aquatic, egg-laying mammal that looks like a duck because it has a bill and webbed feet, like an otter because of its body and fur. It finds its food electronically, has a better electronic system than even a whale does, and the male on their back feet have stingers that are venomous to all animals except humans. But if you get stung with one of those stingers, you're going to feel it for 2 or 3 months because it's oblivious to any medication. Okay. Now, in this universe, we have different shapes and colors and forms and experiences. And what's so wonderful about all of them is they all have a purpose, and in some cases, multi-purposes. Okay. The Chinese have a practice that they call Zhang, and this has to do with the color of the organ systems in the body and fruits and vegetables. And there's 5 colors that are involved: red, yellow, white, blue, black, and green. The red is for the heart system, yellow for the spleen, white for the lungs, blue, black for the kidney system, and green for the liver. And what the secret here is that the color of the fruits and vegetables that match the organ system are the ones you should be eating for the most health and the healing of those organs. I find it absolutely amazing that God has put together this universe in all of these different ways. And all of this information is available to us, but we have to have an awareness of it to be interested in it, to find out about it. So we need to ask questions. Gary Zukav, in his book, The Seed of the Soul, says that not all forms are physical. Thought, for example, is a form. It is energy and light that has been shaped by consciousness, and no form exists without consciousness. So when we say, so I went to the Science of Mind directory, I looked up the word consciousness, and what it says it means is mental awareness. So if we say someone has a good prosperity consciousness, we're referring to that they have a mental awareness of prosperity in their lives. And that happens in their mind. But let's say prosperity consciousness is something that we don't currently express. So we know that it is created by thought. It is shaped by consciousness. So we might want to ask the question, how do I change this thought? What do I think? And one of the wonderful things is that good old Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook tells you how. Okay, so one of the things that asking questions does, and why it's so important, is it connects you with other people. Think about your own Science of Mind studies when you first began them. Did you ask, is there a class maybe that I could attend to learn about this, that connected you with other classmates that were on the same path? Was it a book perhaps that you were reading that somebody had recommended to you? Or someone sees you reading it and says, if you like that book, perhaps you would enjoy this other one. Or was it a conversation that you had with someone? So connections take place when we ask questions. And who are these others? None other than expressions of God going down the same spiritual pathway that we are. One of the greatest wonders for me to know is that there is an entity out there that has instantaneous demonstrations just by the way it thinks. So when I wonder what God is thinking when it reminds me that I was created in the image and likeness of this entity, and I have the capacity to operate and create the same way it does. Was the platypus a mistake, a bad day, a play day? I think it's all awesome, and so it is.
Oh, thank you, Leslie. I love the bit about the platypus. I did not know the humans were the only ones that were immune to the poke. That's great. Yeah, you gotta wonder about that, right? Thank you so much. And our next presenter is Robert Brown. Welcome, Robert. Happy birthday. You're muted, Robert.
Well, anyway, I said thank you again, and I'm going to talk about questioning. I'm going to start off with a quote from Ernest. Practically the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Now, Ernest certainly was not content with what others told him to think or told him to pursue. He was apparently a very inquisitive child who grew into an incredibly inquisitive adult. And he pursued some of life's tough questions like, who is God? And why am I here? Had he not embarked on that journey of questioning, you wouldn't be listening to me today, because there wouldn't be a full metaphysical philosophy of science of mind, nor would there be centers for spiritual living. To question is to consider, and to consider leads toward understanding. Therefore, by questioning everything, one is seeking a better understanding of everything. That's what Ernest Holmes did, and what great minds throughout history have done. Socrates thought that we should question absolutely everything and not rest until we know that our beliefs lie on a secure foundation. He used the Socratic Method, or at least it later became known as the Socratic Method. Socrates called it elenchus. And that is the traditional way that United States law school professors taught for a long time, and some of them still do. My law school wasn't really a strict adherent to the Socratic Method, but it certainly had an influence on how some of the professors taught. As a result, I was forced to read more carefully and extract for myself the essential kernels of knowledge from the cases and the other materials that I read. That way of learning engendered in me critical thinking and a habit of questioning that served me well throughout my legal career. When you ask questions, you pave the way for your own growth and development. By asking questions, you can enhance your understanding and discover and learn more about where you need to grow. And that's exactly what happened during my first year of practitioner studies. One of the other things that Socrates said was that an unexamined life is not worth living. During the first year of practitioner training, I and my fellow students examined our lives intensely by questioning why things happened the way they did and how my personal growth and development were impacted by those things and those people. I gained a deeper understanding of myself, and by extension, a better understanding of everyone in my life, and indeed of human beings in general. It has made my life much richer, and it has also enhanced my ability to be of service to others in my spiritual families, both in California and in Mexico. That intense examination of my life and questioning every aspect of it have led me to be able to say today that I am grateful, incredibly grateful, for everything in my life, good, bad, and ugly, for the simple reason that it has made me the person I am today. And I happen to like that person that I am. So I'd like to close with something that Albert Einstein had to say about asking questions. He said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day." So my invitation to you is to keep questioning. Nourish your innate curiosity. Enjoy this wonderful universe we inhabit, and be in awe, in continual awe of the oneness in which we live, move, and have our being. Thank you, and so it is.
So it is.
Wow, that was fabulous. What's wonderful, wonderful. presentations. I always love it when we do this because we get so many perspectives and such wonderful, juicy inspiration. Thank you. So we've heard examples and situations of the wonder of those, oh my God, moments when we are just present and we cannot help but see the larger life, and it's so personal to us. And then we have examples of wondering, being curious, being open. Spiritual inquiry is a spiritual path to growth. Wonderful. Thank you for all your shares. I really, really enjoyed it very, very much. And so I would just continue, as Robert invited you, to continue to explore through the art of spiritual inquiry by asking questions. When you find yourself in circumstances where you feel uncomfortable, ask the question, what am I believing? What is happening right now that is making me feel so uncomfortable? And how can I align with, how can I honor what I feel and what is right in front of me, respectfully allow myself to feel what I'm feeling, and yet have enough compassion that I open to what is possible in the next moment. So I would invite you to do that. Einstein, I love that quote by Einstein. Thank you, Robert, for that. It reminded me, I read this somewhere one time, that Einstein said that if he had 1 hour to solve a problem, he would spend the first 55 minutes composing the right question to ask, and then 5 minutes answering the question. I love that. Isn't that great? And it's true. It's that openness. When we question, we find ourselves opening up to intuitively know the answers, which we always do. So we're going to move into, thank you again, all, for being here. Next week, Gisela will be speaking to us. Thank you, Gisela, for coming on today. And we're going to have our time of sacred giving, and I'm going to allow, or invite, I should say, Robert to do that.
Well, you want me to do this too?
Well, I can do it.
No, that's all right. I can do it. I can do
Doesn't
it.
really matter.
I'm doing the announcements after
Yeah,
that.
what the heck? You're on a roll. You go for it.
Okay, why don't you get that stuff up on the screen then? And this is our time for sacred giving. And as we all know by now, there are several ways to give to One Heart, One Mind. Venmo is actually the best and easiest way to give, because, and if you just select at OHOM Center, it'll get your donation directly into the bank account. And there's no fee, especially if you're using a bank account transfer. Or you can send it by mail to Jim, and he's posting, as he always does, his address on the chat. And so I invite you now to place your hand, or both hands, over your heart. And that's on the sort of the left of the middle of your chest, for those of you who don't quite know. I recognize that all supply flows from the divine givingness of spirit. My gift is a continuation of this divine flow. I give and receive from this infinite supply. I give in faith, in love, and in joy, and it flows back to me in kind. And so it is. No, no, there's no music, but between the offertory and the announcements, is there? Okay. So Michelle already stole my thunder on the biggest announcement, which is that next Sunday, Reverend Dr. Gisela Sanner will be speaking to us. And it's always a tremendous pleasure for us to hear Gisela. She's such a wonderful person. The Monday evening prayer group is continuing at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where you can join and pray for the center or for any other cause for which you wish to pray for. This Tuesday will be the last of the 4-part series on Back to Basics, and Reverend Michelle and Reverend Leslie will be presenting how to use it. And that's on Tuesday, the 25th. And then on Wednesday, the 26th, we are having Interfaith Wednesday, when Reverend Doctors Steve and Abigail Albert will share their story of their work in interfaith areas and its importance in today's world. And all are welcome to attend that, and love offerings are gratefully accepted. And I believe that's the last of the announcements. And is Ralane on the phone? Because I know she wanted to say something about the Kindness Fund and Kindness Connection. But
Yes, I'm here.
oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Robert. A few months ago, we created a One Heart, One Mind Kindness Fund, and many of our community gave generously to this fund. And this announcement is just a reminder to all of us the importance of reaching out and connecting with people, to know that there is a kindness fund and to utilize it for those of us who would like to offer additional support and caring. The Kindness Fund was created and has grown through our donations, and it is really an expression of anonymous giving, because the Kindness Fund comes from all of us. Besides giving financially to the Kindness Fund, there are other ways to be a part of it. I'd just like to share a little bit about that. Please consider spreading kindness throughout our community to those that are close to you geographically by delivering some flowers or a plant or a small gift. We can also easily mail a book or some other special gift during this COVID time, and I'd be happy to do that. Most importantly, to remember to network with each other so we can identify who might benefit from some kindness. You can email me if you'd like to participate. I'm sure that all of us would love to receive some kindness or spread kindness through our giving. The intention is to enlarge and strengthen our circle, connecting us with our community in deeper ways. And I believe the Kindness Fund can help support this. Rather than random acts of kindness, which is nice in itself, let us remember that kindness can be a way of being. Thank you.
And I'll just add that Ralane's email address can be found on the weekly newsletter, as she is also a member of the Board of Trustees.
That's true. Or on our website as well. I believe Maureen is doing the benediction today, and then we'll have our closing song.
Hi, everybody. This is our time for benediction, which is good word, benediction. So I'd like you, if you'd like, to close your eyes again and just take a breath and just breathe in and experience the mindfulness. Because I was watching Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was saying, as you breathe in, you bring to unity your mind, your spirit, your emotions. And this is a wonderful time for us to come together in the now. We've been talking about the wonder of the now. And I give thanks for all the speakers, because there's so many different ways that spirit expresses itself. We are all the divine, just experiencing this amazing power that we have, and sharing the love and sharing the fellowship that we create every week. So I give great gratitude for One Heart, One Mind, and everyone today who participated. I also bless all those who could not be with us today and know their perfect wholeness. So I release my word into the mind. I know it is acted upon. I give great gratitude again for this process. I release, I let go. I know it's so, and together we say, and so it is. And thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah.
A good life.
95. He was 95 when he made his transition. I remember the first book I read of his, Peace in Every Step, really touched my heart. What a wonderful, amazing spiritual teacher. Music. Richard is going to lead us in You Are the Face of God.
Okay, here we go. Beautiful way to end the service. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the love of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the love of God. You are the light of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the light of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God. You are my family.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Richard. Wow. Well, that was fun. I always enjoy it when we